Mr. Justice Hidden told the two there was about these killings a hard and ruthless edge which can only horrify and stagger the non-criminal mind. He recommended that both should serve a minimum of 15 years.
In September 1998, Darren Nichols found himself back in custody as he gave evidence at Woolwich Crown Court, as Russell Tate and 6 others faced trial for drug smuggling. Although they were intimately involved in bringing the cannabis across the English Channel and transporting it to the garage owned by Steele's mother, it had long been decided that Steele and Womes would not face trial themselves. They were already serving 15 years for murder, and even if they were convicted, the additional sentence would be concurrent. It would be a pointless exercise, and the cost of the security operation needed to bring them to the court, let alone to keep Steele and Russell Tate separate in the dock, made the whole thing pointless. There is also the fact that if Steele and Womes had appeared, the jury would have not been able to know about their previous convictions. All the evidence gathered as a result of the murder investigation would not be admissible. As it was, the customs trial turned out to be something of a non-event, with Nichols appearing in the witness box for less than 2 days. Even without his testimony, the evidence was overwhelming. There was film of meetings between Steele, Tate and others. There was mobile phone records showing the convoy travelled down to Spain through France and then returned to Blankenberg on at least 3 occasions. There was footage from a thermal imaging camera that had followed Steele's boat as it had left the Suffolk coast, picked up the drugs in Belgium and then returned. There were surveillance reports of Womes' Range Rover meeting the boat and removing the cannabis. Finally, there was £500,000 worth of cannabis that had been found in Steele's possession under a blanket in his mum's garage. The only excitement came when Russell Tate himself took the stand. Faced with a mass of rock-solid evidence that he had been wholly aware of and intimately involved in the plot to smuggle cannabis, his defence had to be a stunning one, and it was. In front of an astonished court, Tate explained that he knew all along that Steele had killed his brother and had only got involved with him to bring him to justice. Tate believed that by friending Steele through the joint smuggling venture, he might eventually leave some clue or drop some hint that gave away his involvement in the murders. Then, and only then, did Tate plan to go to the police. It was a great tale, but one that no one could be expected to take seriously. As Mr. Justice Geoffrey Rucker said during his sentencing after the 6 weeks trial, Tate had prepared an ingenious story as a way of explaining his involvement in the conspiracy, but it did not simply bear the scrutiny of common sense and day-to-day experience of life. It was wholly untrue. In listening to the evidence, I do not for a moment believe that Tate had ever suspected Steele of murdering his brother. After being found guilty, Tate was jailed for 5 years. Paul Gwinnett was given 4 years, while Craig Androlopoulos received 2. Tate's lover Sarah Darliston, a childhood friend Tracy Ralston, and Ian Kerr were each jailed for 30 months. Michael James, who'd been filmed meeting with Steele on at least one occasion, was acquitted. On Friday the 13th of November 1998, Darren Nichols returned to custody one last time before making a brief appearance at Woolwich Crown Court before Justice Hidden for his sentencing. I have no doubt that without the evidence provided by this man, a terrible crime would have been solved and 2 killers would still be walking the streets. In return, Mr. Nichols will undoubtedly have to spend the rest of his life in fear. I have no hesitation in awarding him full credit for the assistance he provided both police and customs in this matter. Nichols was sentenced to 15 months. The time he had already served in prison whilst awaiting trial more than covered it. He had paid his debt to society. He had become a free man. On the 26th of January 1999, representatives of Michael Steele and Jack Womes appeared at the High Court to ask for leave for appeal against their convictions. Outside the court, friends and family fixed banners to the railings declaring their innocence, but it was not to be. After a 5-hour hearing, Lord Bingham, the Lord Chief Justice, Mr. Justice Kennedy, and Mr. Justice Jackson concluded there was no evidence to suggest the convictions were unsafe. As their supporters chanted fix, relatives of Womes spoke to the ranks of waiting reporters and photographers. "He'll cry for a week when we tell him," said John Worms. "We will carry on campaigning, and the campaign will get bigger." And indeed it has. In May 1999, Jackie Street finally broke her silence and told the Basildon Echo she was investigating every avenue in her fight to get her common-law husband released. "We are looking at every possible channel," she said. "They did not commit these murders," and both Michael Steele and Jack Worms protest their innocence. Michael is determined and absolutely resolved that the truth will eventually come out, and he will never give up. With other avenues exhausted, Steele was trying new tactics, putting the blame on his representation in court and complaining to the legal ombudsman. If it is found that he was not properly represented, then he will automatically have leave to go to appeal, Street added. An application was also being made to the Criminal Cases Review Committee, the European Court of Human Rights, and Steele was even looking at taking out private prosecutions against some of the police officers involved in the case. "I know he's no saint, but he did not murder these 3 men, Street continued. "He has committed a number of crimes in the past, and he has paid for them. The evidence is there that he is innocent, but we just need someone to listen. I've had everything taken away from me. I have no means of support, and I'm living on benefits. My main aim in life is to get Michael home, and I will never give up. In order to be free, he would have to admit his guilt. He would never do that. He would rather die in prison than admit to something that he did not do." On May 14th, 1996, Darren Nichols, a little-known petty criminal from Braintree, Essex, disappeared from the face of the earth. But it wasn't until the 2nd of March 1999 that he finally officially became someone else. There was no ceremony or celebration that day that the police turned up with his new passport and driving licence. Just a quick handshake and a request that in future he stay out of trouble. Today, Darren Nichols lives somewhere in the United Kingdom, in an average house, on an average street, where nothing, least of all Darren Nichols himself, stands out from the crowd. He and his wife both work in reasonable interesting jobs, have a growing circle of friends, and are slowly saving up for a second car. No one has a real idea about his past, what he has been through, and the things he has seen. And that's just the way he intends to keep it.